Let's talk some Dodgers here with Swellin' Sausage. He goes, hello from Lakeside Fortress in the Eastern Sierra. Dodgers Glasnow left Dodgers, and Roberts have no idea where he is. He's done for the year.
Yeah, he really is. And there's a lot of second guessing going on. I knew this guy had elbow problems with the Pirates multiple times. Tampa Bay, he had the same thing, flare. And yet the Dodgers gave him this mega contract, hoping he would hold up. And he pitched really well for the first third of the season. Then he started to give ground, and then he had physical woes. It's tough. There's no doubt he's the ace of somebody's staff. The thing is, do you get a whole season out of him? Do you get 30 starts out of him? And that's not the case. So in Swell in all probability, he is done for this season. And I just don't know where they're going to go to get trustworthy starting pitching once you get beyond Flaherty. And you have to hold your breath with Yamamoto. Now, he pitched 4 good innings in the first game coming off the long stretch on the DL, but you don't know what you're going to get from him. And there's talk that if Kershaw pitches, and he has yet to throw off the full mound, he's throwing flat ground, but that's different planting your foot to throw because you got the toe injury, the bone spur. That's different than throwing off a mound as you land, etc. If Kershaw comes back, they're talking about him and Ohtani maybe being 1-inning guys out of the bullpen. Please tell me, if you're a Dodger fan, where's the rest of the starting pitching going to come from? Because Buehler is here, and then he's here. Mm-hmm. You never know from start to start what you're going to get. We saw vintage Buehler on Sunday, but prior to that, Walker Buehler got lit up. Dodgers, I think, have got enormous pitching problems.
Well, remember at the beginning of the season, we thought they had too many pitchers.
Sure.
And so imagine if they had the depth of an average organization in MLB, they would be toast right now. So they're still putting these guys together. But the Glasnow deal, didn't they trade for him from Tampa and then sign him when he got here? Because wasn't he in the Pepio deal there with Tampa and 3 other guys?
They gave him $136 million as a part of an extension.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a ballsy move, but, thank God they've got, what is it, Gavin? Is it Gavin Stone?
He's on the deal, though. He's got a shoulder.
But they have that depth, so if they didn't have those young guys to go with the Yamamotos and the Glasnows and the Buehlers and the Kershaws, et cetera.
But there's no guarantee Stone's going to be ready for postseason.
Well, yeah, I know. It's like roadkill across this road. It's just awful. I don't know how they're surviving.
Okay, next question. Thanks for the input.
Okay, Swellman Sausage. Okay, let's go to Javi. He says, Brewers are looking like the D-backs did last year. Going to be a dangerous team.
Tell you what, for them to hang as tough as they have almost 90 wins. I think they're at 86 now with 2 weeks to go. For them to do that without Christian Yelich for most of the season, that's amazing. And for them to do that, having let Corbin Burns go in the trade with the Orioles and having no Brandon Woodruff, I mean, it's hard to ascertain how the hell they're doing this. I mean, Freddie Peralta is the anchor of their rotation. Now, they got a bunch of young kids. It's just amazing with the job that Pat Murphy has done in the face of this type of adversity. Now, that being said, once the playoffs begin, you're not playing the Pirates or the Rockies or the White Sox. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's all going to catch up to them. But no, Milwaukee's had a really just amazing season. Milwaukee's got more wins than the Yankees, and they're a $280 million payroll. It's amazing.
It is. I've been trying to figure this out for a while. I mean, Jackson Churio has really turned it on in the second half.
And Willie Adames has had a phenomenal bounce-back season.
And always thought about Adames is that he is batting often cleanup for the Brewers, which always strikes me. He doesn't seem like a cleanup hitter. But, when I think of the Brewers, I always think of Harvey's Wallbangers. Remember those guys?
Gorman Thomas.
And the Cecil Cooper, I think, was there. That was Yount and Molitor. Those were good days.
Harvey Keene's guys.
Yeah.
Okay, Milwaukee, thank you for the input.
Okay, let's go here to Chris. He goes, Monty bleeping Montezuma, now in the Pac-12 or whatever it's going to be called. Memo to Aztecs and the rest of the conference. Do not let UCLA come crawling back. You do not need Deshaun Foster and his brutally incompetent program dragging to the new Pac down. Indiana steamrolled the hapless and unprepared Little Bruins on Saturday.
They got problems. And I'll tell you what, if this turns into a disaster, that athletic director might be in trouble. Martin Jarman is the one that I think was responsible for Chip Kelly, which means he gave Kelly everything he wanted. Look how that worked out, which means Martin is also responsible for the massive debt in the UCLA athletic department. I mean, they've got problem stacked upon problem stacked upon problems. And if this turns out to be a 2-11 football season, that's at your front door. You're the one that hired this guy. You know, I still would have thought UCLA brand would have been a marquee job. And you took a guy who has never been a coordinator, much less a head coach anywhere, and gave him the head coaching job. And then Foster has really struggled with game management. It's obvious that there's X's and O's problems. There's roster problems. Even though he's got the NFL brand of Eric Bieniemy as his right-hand guy, they're not competitive. And they got slugged by a middle-of-the-road Indiana Hoosier football team from the Big Ten. What the hell's going to happen? They got to play LSU. They got to play Michigan. They're going on the road in the Big Ten.
They're going to get killed.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, this pile is going to wind up at the front door of that athletic director. This might cost him his job.
Yeah, it's looking bad. I mean, for the longest time, you'd always think of UCLA as like one of the pillars of the Pac-12.
Sure.
You know, and it wasn't just because of John Wooden in basketball. The football program was great, and you knew they had so many other sports programs that are all very successful. And to see it come down to this, I mean, it's almost like a Mountain West team now, you know, the way they're playing. What was the rationale for Foster? Was it just because he was an alum and they wanted to, you know, have a feel-good story?
Contacts. He knew a lot of people, and he had been a viable running back coach in the National Football League. He had a nice little career in the pros after a brilliant career with the Bruins. But at the end of the day, not a lot of experience there. And obviously his roster has been depleted, and they got a late start on recruiting. This doesn't look good to me. I watched the UCLA game because I was enamored. I wanted to see Indiana's quarterback, Curtis Rourke, because he played at Ohio U where I went, and his brother had preceded him and set all the passing records. This kid started 3 years with the Ohio Bobcats and did really well and erased a bunch of the passing records his brother had established. So I just wanted to see how he was doing. And I looked up, he's throwing touchdown passes. And all of a sudden, man, it was 40 to 13. I said, wow.
Yeah.
So I thought he'd be okay in the Big Ten because that is a step up from the Mid-American, but I never thought UCLA would be down here.
It makes you wonder also with Eric Bieniemy, the way he's such a forceful coach.
Yep.
And he's in your face. I wonder how that works with the college teams as opposed to the pros.
Well, but he coached in college before he went back to the NFL. Actually, when he left the NFL, he went back to college. A lot of people don't know this. You know, you make all this money in the NFL. You live a unique lifestyle. He gave all that up to go back to finish his degree. You know, he's from the inner city here in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
He went back and got his degree so he could become a graduate assistant.
Nice.
I think it was on Bill McCartney's staff at CU, and they were really good.
Yeah.
So then he became a full-time assistant. Then he moved around, and then he wound up going to the NFL where he had a tremendous run under Andy Reid. So maybe he's going to wind up being the head coach. I don't know. This is a bad set of circumstances if we start to connect the dots as to where UCLA is in terms of leadership and in terms of roster.
Remember Chris Berman? He would go, Eric's sleeping with Bieniemy. Remember that? He always had a nickname for everybody. I want UCLA to be competitive. I do, but I don't think this is their year.
Oh, I think it's going to be a hard year. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to Gary. He goes, Hacksaw, I want to hear the words in your voice. The Padres are not a 500 team. We are getting hot at the right time. I think this team is feeling it. Go Pods.
Oh, the Friars are on a roll. You know, and people are saying, oh, now you're jumping on the damn bandwagon. Well, when we were talking Padre baseball first half of the season, same old from a year ago. The chronic word was underachiever. I didn't like anything that I was seeing that first half of the season. I mean, your Padres lost to Miami. Your Padres got killed in multiple series by the Colorado Rocks. You know, they were losing all these last place teams, and then the chemistry changed. And then they made the deadline deals that got that bullpen stronger. And then the free agent acquisition showed up. And, you know, where would they be without the timely hits of Peralta and Donovan Solano? I mean, it's a whole bunch of things that kind of came in, and suddenly they got good. And the big money guys are playing really big-time baseball right now. Whether one night that's Tatis, the next night it could be Manny, it could be anybody. So that this team has come together. And tell you what, we're going to the playoffs, and I don't know whether they finish second, whether they're the top team in the wild card. I don't know whether they can actually catch the collapsing Dodgers. They're dangerous. They're going to be a dangerous team, I think, in postseason. And if they can get a bunch of games at Petco Park, which has become an insane asylum down there, that'd be cool. That would really be cool.
Isn't it interesting when you watch the team, when they're going through their bad stretches and Manny comes up, you know it's not going to work out. You know he's going to swing and miss down and away. But when they're hot like this and Manny comes up, you think he can do no wrong. And he typically will get that big hit. So the vibe is just so different. I mean, it makes you wonder, was it Bob Melvin or Juan Soto? I tend to think Soto might have been a cancer.
I think Soto and Hader were real detriments in the clubhouse. And now it's Manny's clubhouse, although Manny's not real vocal, But at the end of the day, this combination, this roster that AJ has finally put in place at this point in their lives, in their careers, this thing really works. Now, who knows a year from now, it'll be the same. Players are never the same from year to year. But this moment, as we're in mid-September with 2 weeks to go, I wouldn't want to play him in postseason because this team has really come together.
You know who I'm worried about is Profar. You ever notice not only was he getting hit all the time, but he's fouling pitches off his foot, off his knee. The guy is just like a demolition car. So I'm just hoping he can make it through this season and be productive in the playoffs.
He's tailed a bunch in the last month. Jackson Merrill's kind of cooled down a little bit. It's not to say they can't come back, though. But right now, they got so many guys that they can carry them. And the role players, they can be dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to get Solano's not going to get a hit every time up, but Solano can have stretches where boom. And Peralta took him half a season to get a stroke back because he was coming off surgery. Now he's a dangerous veteran who will occasionally pop one or put the ball in play, etc. So it's going to be fun.
Do you like Merrill batting 5 right now?
Doesn't matter. He's going to get his pitches. He's going to hit. I don't have a problem with that. Doesn't matter to me.
I think it's all good.
Good. Okay. Hey, thank you for the call, Gary.
Okay, let's go here to T. Will. He says, get upset all you want. The player's health should come first.
He's making reference, I would assume, to Tua in Miami. I'm not upset. I'm just concerned from having experienced concussions to a guy that I really liked and I saw what it did to his personal life. I'd really be concerned about that. It does come under Tua to make the final decision because it is his life, it is his career, it is his family that gets impacted. But when you've had 3 in 24 months, the likelihood of reoccurrence happens at a faster pace because you've already been hurt a couple, 3 times. That's got to come into some consideration. I'd be intrigued to see if players started to wear Guardian caps because right now, Guardian caps on top of the helmet, I mean, the concussions were down like 70% in preseason games and workouts from the guys that wore Guardian caps. Why would you not try it? I don't care. It looks stupid. If everybody starts to wear it, then nobody looks stupid because everybody's wearing the same thing.
Well, hopefully the players would see this as an opportunity to kind of, send a signal that we all love Tua, and everyone would wear the Guardian cap and make it so it is fashionable for the players to wear. But you are concerned with him. Do you know, is he married? Does he have children?
Yes.
Oh, he does.
Both accounts.
Okay, so he's got some big decisions ahead of him. And then the Miami, by the way, if Tua's not playing, they're not a competitive team.
Well, they're a competitive team if they get the right quarterback, and they just signed a free agent just as we were coming on. Tyler Huntley, who had been a backup in Baltimore and has played in spurts, and he's a really competitive guy. They just signed him. They talked to Ryan Tannehill of Tennessee, but Tannehill's a different quarterback. Huntley is more cut in the same fashion of scrambler, make things happen on the run. So Huntley's going to come in. I would assume Huntley probably is going to wind up being the starter, not immediately. Skylar Thompson out of Kansas State is going to be the starter for the next week or so. But Huntley, if Tua's gone for, which I think is going to be 6 to 8 weeks at least, while they run the test and they put him through all this cognitive stuff, Huntley, I bet, winds up playing a fair amount for them if Thompson can't do it.
Yeah, some tough calls there.
Yeah.
One other comment on Tua is I always remember that he was at Alabama with Jalen Hurts.
Yes.
And then Tua won the job, and then Hurts went to Oklahoma.
Exactly.
So in your opinion, do you think Tua is better than Jalen Hurts even today? Assuming, of course, he's healthy.
That's a good question. They're not quite the same quarterback. Hurts is bigger than Tua. Hurts has come at a much faster pace. Tua had to be brought along because he wasn't a complete quarterback, and he had injuries. He had injuries, a lot of injuries at Alabama. He had the fractured hip, and he had a concussion. And he had 13 different injuries at Alabama.
13. Wow.
Over 3.5 to 4 plus years. So I think Hurts is a star. Tua was emerging as a star, and now he's waylaid for a chunk of time.
Tough go over there. Okay, let's keep moving. Let's go to John. And he says, 26 days until the happiest day in North America, the opening of the new NHL season.
That's coming from a Washington Capitals fan. Washington, non-playoff Washington with an aging superstar in Ovechkin. Hockey will be just around the corner. It's going to be fun. Is Edmonton for real? Can Edmonton take the next step? Can Boston, which suddenly got a lot of injuries and looked old at the end, now they're getting the guys who coming off these surgeries. Will those guys hit the ice on opening night running? Rangers were really good with Shesterkin in goal. Can the Rangers take that next step rather than just be a playoff team? Obviously, be a dominant team. Florida is Florida. Tampa Bay is Tampa Bay. A lot of storylines around hockey to talk about, but that floats in right at the end of October.
What are the one sentence, descriptions now, storylines for the Sharks, the Kings, and the Ducks?
Sharks, massive rebuild. You just can't win with so many young kids, but they've got a lot of young kids, including their number one draft pick who had just come from Boston College, and last year's number one pick that they turned pro and signed. And then they traded for somebody else's unsigned number one pick. But you're building your whole franchise around all these young guys. Can't win that way. Ducks have been running uphill for 3 years with draft picks. Have they won anything? No. It's going to take some more time there. And the Kings are right on the brink. The Kings, they've got huge financial commitments to the Kopitars of the world, Dowdies of the world. The problem with the Kings is they got a lot of mileage now. They got a lot of age guys. And they either have to win and go deep into the playoffs, or they're going to have to blow the thing up, because all the marquee guys are going to be 32, 33, 34. And the roadblock for the LA Kings, as good as they've been the last couple of years, is they can't get beyond the first round opponent. And the first round opponent is freaking Edmonton and Connor McDavid. They haven't solved that. So the Kings, it has to win now, because suddenly they'll be a much older team with all these cap constrictions. And we start getting 34-year-old guys making $8 million a year who can't do it. You're in trouble.
Did you share a tweet of the Ducks in their new orange uniforms?
Yeah, did you like that?
Yeah.
Orange country?
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought the uniforms were pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the old, what was it? Turquoise and eggplant? Yeah.
That is right. It was like a purple and a light blue.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I didn't like the black and the orange and the Ducks logo. I like the original Ducks logo. And then great. I mean, hats off to the Ducks and the Gulls people, because they did a marketing campaign this summer that says, "This is Orange Country," not county, Orange Country. But it was a slap at Artie Moreno and the Angels. They won't say that, but I'll say it. Artie Moreno of the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim that nobody goes to see because they're in last place. So the Ducks came up with this is Orange Country, and debuted these new uniforms, which are predominantly orange and white, and they're snazzy. Just, Google it. You'll see the uniforms. They look really, really cool. Now, do they have a good group of players to put in those new snazzy uniforms? They're awful young.
Snazzy. I haven't heard that word in a long time.
Okay, old school.
Okay, this is a comment about Stan Humphries, I believe, and this is from Surf, Sun, and Sand. He says, "I remember that play, the look in his eyes, and his what the F am I, or where the F am I, was not good."
Well, when I took him off the field, and I knew he had a concussion, his eyes were like saucers big, and that's the first sign this is really bad. And they took him to the hospital, and our flight home from Cincinnati was delayed because we had to wait for him to come from the hospital. He had been released, and he sat up in the front of the plane, and I happened to walk up the aisle. We're not allowed to go up the front of the plane where the coaches were, but he was in the back seat, and he saw me, and he grabbed my arm, and I kind of asked him, I said, you going to be okay with this? He says, well, I'm in a bad situation right now. But he made a comment to me, and I couldn't believe that he even brought this up. That was the week that we had been informed that we were losing the rights to the Chargers. They were leaving our radio station. And I thought to myself, what a hell of a guy this is. He grabs my arm as I'm walking back away, and he says, how you doing?
He was asking about you.
About losing the radio rights.
Right.
And I said, wow, what a hell of a guy. Thinking about me and how I felt considering how badly he looked. And John, he had like 2 black eyes. He looked terrible. And he was asking me how I felt. I thought, what a hell of a guy this guy is. And then I got so pissed later in the season at Kevin Gilbride, who was then the head coach, about to get fired the following year. Gilbride somehow it came up in a conversation about Stan, and Gilbride made the comment to me, well, if he wanted it bad enough, he'd be on the field playing. What? I thought to myself, what a piece of crap thing to say about your quarterback who was badly hurt. And we got to the end of the season, the week after the season ended, and Stan announced his retirement because he could not function. Yet this coach is saying that about a starting quarterback. I was floored that he would ever say something like that. And again, we all have different relationships with different players, but for him to say that about that quarterback, and I knew who that quarterback was and how he was hurt, and I knew what he stood for as a man. And so, he grabbed me in the aisle of the plane and said, how you doing? I said, wow, what a unique individual. Because I wasn't doing real well. I was really upset about what was about to happen to our broadcast crew and happen to our radio station. But that's a long story.
But, no one liked Kevin Gilbride. He was an awful coach, and everyone hated on him. And it's when Stan Humphries came here from the Redskins, Beathard pulled off that trade. He was like a hero. I mean, he came in and saved that team and got him into the playoffs when they went against the Chiefs, I think.
Well, Bobby had come from Washington. Bobby knew everybody on the Washington roster. The Redskins hid Stan Humphries on injured reserve. And they kind of dropped hints, well, he has a blood disorder. And Humphries shook his head and said, no, that's not the case. But anyhow, the Chargers made the deal while the Redskins hid him on injured reserve, and they got him. And he got here. It took him a little while. And tell you what, he was a gamer. And he was our version of the Raiders' Darryl LaMonica, Mad Bomber.
Yeah.
And he would stand in that pocket and he would take some shots, but he'd get that damn ball out of there down the field. That was a special time. And then, what happened, I've told this story before, is the Chargers went to the Super Bowl and we got destroyed by your guy, Steve Young, who was one of the best of all times. And it was one of the best offenses I'd ever seen. And the next year, everybody's of the opinion, well, we'll get back there. Well, you never get back there because your team's never the same. That year after the Super Bowl run, and by the way, this is the 30th anniversary of the Chargers' run to the Super Bowl. It's hard to believe it's been 30 years. But that year they came back, every one of their starting offensive linemen went down with a knee injury. 5 guys had scopes. Some in the offseason, some got hurt in preseason, some got hurt at the start of the season. The whole offensive line was just not 100%. And then they didn't win, and Stan started to take shots in the following years when he got run over in Cincinnati and really got badly hurt.
Help me on the timeline here, because I remember the 92, they made the playoffs. That's what I meant when they faced the Chiefs in the first round. They went 94, and then the Super Bowl they were in, right?
94 was the Super Bowl season. They played the Super Bowl in January 95.
Correct. Then when did Humphries have this concussion? What year was that?
That would have been the 96 season.
96.
Right in the beginning.
And then Ryan Leaf didn't come around till like 98, right?
Yeah.
So who was the quarterback in the between?
You would ask me that. That's a good question.
Was it Flutie?
I think Flutie might have been part of that equation. Bobby Ross had gotten removed. And, then they had a myriad of people that showed in there. Mike Riley was there for his head coach, and June Jones was an interim coach, and it was just a disaster. But Flutie was there, and Sean Salisbury was there. Bob Galliano was there.
Galliano.
Yeah, Craig Wheelahan was there. It was just a mishmash of guys.
Yeah.
Just wasn't very good.
Yeah, we sure miss Stan Humphries. He's still doesn't he golf, like on one of those celebrity golf tournaments?
He was playing golf. He actually became a girls basketball coach, a high school girls basketball coach outside of Shreveport, and I think he was doing very well. Haven't seen him, haven't talked to him in a while, but I crossed paths with ex-Charger people who were part of his entourage.
Nice.
Okay, a couple more here.
Okay, let's go to 4RXLA. The NL West will come down to the 3-game series in LA next week. Dodgers don't have the pitching to go deep in the playoffs.
It's huge, but of course, as we just ran everybody's got about 10 games to go, and we ran that schedule. The Dodgers are running out of pitchers, but they've got this lead over the Padres, and the question is, Dodgers would have to go on a hell of a binge losing streak, and the Padres would just have to run the table to be able to get to Dodger Stadium in a fight for first place. I guess anything is humanly possible, but that's a little bit of a reach.
So it's 12 games, right? Three and a half games to make up with 12 to go. Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on here. Let's go to Mario. And it says, do you guys think the Chargers can win the next 2 games against Pittsburgh and Kansas City?
Pittsburgh, that's going to be a field goal kicking contest. Because we know already the Steelers just don't move the football very well with Justin Fields. And I'm not sure that Russell Wilson even be ready to play next week. I guess anything is possible. We also know Pittsburgh is going to try to pound the football with Najee Harris. So they'll try to play ball control and keep Herbert off the field. When Herbert has the football, where the hell is TJ Watt lined up?
Yeah.
Where's Highsmith lined up?
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh's living off their defense right now. So at the end of the day, I think what we got here is you've got the irresistible force against the immovable object. You got the Chargers offense, which wants to move the football and pound the football, and you got Pittsburgh's U.S. Steel tough defense, which means it's going to be a field goal kicking contest. There'll probably be some turnovers along the way. I don't know how the hell the Steelers are going to score a touchdown against the Chargers, but I know Herbert's going to have a tough time moving the football because Pittsburgh's defense up front, their front seven just causes such heartburn. They're so tough. And how the hell do you block them all? Because they send guys. It'll be a good game. And after that, you got Kansas City. I think the Bolts can win in Pittsburgh. That'd be 3-0 versus Mahomes and company. Oh, that'd be a good game, you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we would say the Chargers are for real if they're 3-0 going into that game. But then the Steelers have a good kicker, just like the Chargers have a good
Chris
kicker.
Boswell's really good.
Yeah, because remember, he kicked 6 field goals against the Falcons. I remember that.
Only superseded by yesterday when Washington's kicker, who was a street free agent, kicked 7. 7 field goals yesterday for Washington.
Well, how the heck did Dicker, the kicker, miss his point after yesterday?
I don't know whether he wasn't ready or the ball got snapped or the ball wasn't held perfect. Him to miss a point after, he'd never done that before. And then he had a lousy kickoff that didn't even reach the landing zone. And there was a penalty there. They gave the ball out to the 40-yard line. Yeah. But it was Carolina, which couldn't do anything with the field position. And then Dicker came back and then he started bombing kicks again. And what an acquisition he's turned out to be. I mean, that's a hell of a kicker was on the street that they signed 3 years ago.
Yeah, good for the Chargers. Yeah, let's move on. Let's go to Rap Album Depot. People forget how fast Steve Young was simply because he was a level below Cunningham and Vic.
Yeah, but he was really good. And he became he was a great running quarterback at BYU. And he was kind of inaccurate. I don't know if that's a left-hander thing. It doesn't bother me. I'm left-handed, and I'm right on with everything I do.
Of course.
But Young was spraying it all over the place, and it just wasn't very consistent. He just got progressively better and better. Of course, he had a lot of time to learn, as the backup to Joe Montana, and then he got his chance. He was a great player. He was a fierce leader, and he walked away from football at the peak of his career because of concussions.
Yeah.
But that offense with him and Jerry Rice and Johnny Taylor and the 2 tight ends and Ricky Waters at running back, God, they were so explosive and so creative. And I mean, that was for a short period of time, that was a really brilliant offense.
Just that whole early 90s era was interesting because this is after Montana, and the Niners had Young, and then Troy Aikman was big. Brett Favre was a young guy, and they were always meeting in the playoffs.
Yep.
I remember.
And Marino was in Miami with the Marx brothers, and you couldn't stop them.
Yeah, they were unbelievable too.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Young was tremendous. And yeah, you're right. The concussions are what took that guy down. But the play I remember with him was against the Vikings. And I don't know if it was a playoff game or a regular season where he ran 50 yards for a touchdown, stumbling and bumbling, talking about Greg Berman, that sort of thing. He was amazing. And he's had a decent career on the TV media.
Yeah, no, I think he's done well post career. He got started on it earlier, but dude, smart guy. I mean, he was represented. He's really close to the super agent of that era, Lee Steinberg, and he just came up with the opinion: it is time to step away because I cannot afford to have more concussions. Aikman's had concussions. That's why Aikman walked away from the game too, and he's been very open about it. And he's been very interactive. Troy Aikman's been very active with the people at Boston University, which kind of run the concussion research program. For all the players who pass away, they were the first one that stepped up and went to the families of the players that committed suicide or died from ALS or dementia and said, would you donate the brain so we can do research? And they're the ones that came up with CTE, the description of CTE. And
Interesting.
there was like 100, I want to say like 113 players that families donated the brains to. 110 of the first 113 all had CTE. So they become the flag bearer of CTE research. It's just amazing what sports medicine has become just because of those people at BU. And Aikman got involved with them too to help them.
Remember, you've talked a lot about that movie Concussion.
Sure.
Was that about BU as well?
A little bit about BU, but it was more about the NFL. If you've never seen the movie Concussion, you have to see it. Will Smith plays the lead research doctor. There's a lot of famous actors in the movie. And the portrayal of what happened to Mike Webster, the legendary Hall of Fame center of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and his right tackle, Justin Strelczyk, who were dying at the same time and didn't even know what was happening to them. The movie is phenomenal. I'm sure Netflix, I'm sure you can order it off Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
There's a book that was written that they made. It was written by two ESPN investigative reporters. The movie was made off the book. Just spectacular. And I've told this story before. When the movie came out, they had a preview showing here in San Diego, and this is when the Chargers were here. And I went to that preview showing, and a large number of the Charger players went to that movie. And we came out of the movie after it went 2 hours and 5 minutes. And I stood there and I watched all these players come out of that movie, and they were all whispering to each other. And I just got the sense the players were really pissed off at the National Football League because they believed there was a massive cover-up about head injuries that could lead to this CTE and the 45 guys who committed suicide, etc. And the movie hit home for an awful lot of guys. And then where did that go? Even though Pete Rozelle in the NFL, I never saw the movie. I wasn't interested. NFL management people that I interviewed, no, I never saw the movie. Why the hell you didn't see it? Because it's Hollywood. Well, BS. Don't tell me it's not true. And months or a year after that came the concussion lawsuit. And right after that, before the trial started, came the $865 million settlement from the National Football League and the payment to the players in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, into the 80s, and to a degree into the 90s. But the NFL, we didn't do anything wrong. But yeah, out of the goodness of their heart, they wrote a check for $865 million.
Yeah, to make the problem go away.
Exactly. Well, it's a long answer to the question. If you've never seen the movie Concussion, those of you on this podcast, find it, watch it. It might change the way you feel about the National Football League, but to stand in that theater, and it was in Poway, to stand in that theater and to see 50 Charger players come out of that thing after the preview, they all look really upset and they all look really pissed that, yeah, I think the NFL's been hiding all this data and all this information, and I think it's true.
Well, I'm glad they changed the kickoff rules. I think that's a legitimate good move by the league. It's just going to take a while for us to adapt to it. Yeah. But, they said most of those injuries happen on the kickoff, but then we always hear about quarterbacks. But are any positions more susceptible, do you think, to concussion?
Well, think about the combat in the offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah.
Those guys take blows every snap. Think about Mike Webster. What he played, 20 years? How many blows to the head he took, and that's why he wound up the way he wound up.
And that was back when hands to the face was legal, right?
Forearms shivers to the head were legal. That whole Deacon Jones thing, coming off the edge with this. And, of course, it's illegal now, but it was allowed to go on and on. You got to see the movie. If you don't read books, that's okay. See the movie because that capsulizes it. Will Smith did a phenomenal job as the lead actor, as the doctor that discovered CTE. Okay, listen, we hope you have enjoyed this Monday podcast.